On this week's show, we're discussing Summer Games Fest opening night, a PlayStation State of Play was dropped last minute again, and Nintendo have released a new console. All that and much, much more in this week's GamerGuild Podcast. Good game, everyone, and welcome back to the GamerGuild Podcast, your weekly show where we round up all the week's video game stories and news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV and up there in the digital clouds on your podcast preference of choice. Your podcast players for this week are myself, Mr. Richie, and the returning of Mr. Tom. How are you, Tom?
Once again, guys. I'm good, mate. It's been a bit of a banger week, to be honest with you, hasn't it? So, got loads to talk about today.
You've picked a good week to sub in for Chris, put it that way.
Hell yeah.
You've been making quite a few more appearances, actually, of late on the podcast.
Well, I'm finding myself with a little bit of time, here and there. I'll dabble back in with things, say hi to the folks.
Well, I'm finding myself with less time.
Yeah, that's
and
life,
Chris,
mate.
And at the time of recording, Chris is almost certainly in his new house, neck deep in boxes, going, how on earth do I get all this sorted?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But
it's mad as we get older, just like literally how much stuff you accumulate. Like, you don't realise it, and then when you start boxing it up and unboxing it, you're like...
It's one of the mad things I was talking to my girlfriend about, is like, estate agents and stuff, the weird people that kind of expect you to pack up your entire house, move in an entire day, but then don't give you the date in advance for you to kind of organise stuff. Sometimes you get your move date a few days in advance, which if you're a working person could be an absolute nightmare, and then removal vans and all that kind of stuff. But then sometimes you don't get your keys till whenever, so it's not like, okay, it's moving date, go to the office at 8 o'clock, pick up my keys and crack on. I do think Chris got his keys fairly early, but I know when I bought my house, I didn't get my keys till like 2:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah, well, that's the thing then. By that point, the day's pretty much written off, isn't it? So it's like, well, what the hell am I going to achieve today?
Luckily for me, I was moving from a rented flat into a vacant house. Yeah, so I still had a week left on my lease for my flat. So I had a full week to move, but I just imagine if I had entire house worth of stuff and didn't get your keys to the afternoon, but then you've got to hand your keys to your old house in by 5 o'clock. It's nuts.
It's madness.
Yeah.
Madness.
It is. But you know what isn't madness? The great show we do have lined up for you. But before we get into it, make sure if you haven't already, you like the video, subscribe to the channel and ring that bell so you're kept in the loop of all of our amazing content here at GamerGuildTV, such as Chris's first look at Expedition 33, which... I've bought it, Tom. It gets delivered today. As we're recording this Saturday morning, it gets delivered today.
I promise you, you will enjoy it. It is... Wow.
I haven't watched Chris's first look, because that went up on Thursday. Friday night, I was playing Oblivion, realised I was literally about to get the Platinum, so I ordered Expedition 33, so it came up Saturday, so I was like, I can't wait to get my hands on it tonight.
Yeah. You've got to go in blind because it just hits you right from the get-go. It's just literally event after event after event. It's just going to absolutely blow your mind and it's going to take your breath away. That's what I can say.
No, I can't wait, but I do have the Platinum in Oblivion.
Nice. That's impressive. That's actually quite impressive. Well done.
The Platinum's not too bad, actually, because there's no leveling up skills to max levels or doing a million side quests. To get the Platinum, you need to do main story, Fighters Guild, Mages Guild, Thieves Guild, and Dark Brotherhood. That's it.
Okay.
You do the story in that Platinum.
Respectable.
It's a nice Platinum because that's the main stories of the game. Ticked. Yeah. And then there's still a shit ton of side content but what I found is with my character, by the end, I did my Thief and Dark Brotherhood in one character, then re-rolled for the rest. By the end, I was just walking into the Gate of Oblivion and pretty much just walking up to a sigil stone. I didn't need to hit anyone. I was just I was literally, because I used the Atronach sign, so I had immediately 50% spell absorb, and then I managed to acquire like another like 50% plus spell resist and all sorts of stuff. So any time someone casts a spell on me, my mana just went up.
I think it's the one thing I'd always have to say about Oblivion is that the systems can be broken a little bit, can't they? If you play it just right.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to break it. This is all stuff I found organically. I wasn't going in doing like a spiffing blip thing where I was trying to find it. But then because I was wearing heavy armor, most hits just bounced off.
Nice.
Occasionally I'll just use a heal. So I made myself a new spell that just did a lot of healing over time. So I could just cast that and not worry. It was just like, walk through and hit everything. I'll have that. Sigil Stone, thank you very much.
Nice. Well, definitely when you're playing Expedition 33, think about how things like modifiers stack up as well. So, as well as the weapons that you equip, you can also equip things called Pictos, and Pictos will add they'll add things to your stats, but they'll also have some sort of special effect along with them. It might be something like you gain your attack damage is increased by 50%, but you cannot heal. Think about how those stack together when you find another one that does like 15% and another one that does 20%, for example, because you get some crazy numbers after a while.
It's just that exponential kind of like build.
Oh yeah. Well, now that my one of my main characters now deals, I mean, I'm sort of at the point now with Expedition 33. I'm just clearing up side quest stuff. I'm out in the world. I've got everything I need to go for the. I'm essentially at the final chapter, right? It's one of those points where if you think a la Final Fantasy VII, where you have to go and fight Sephiroth for the final time, it's one of those points where you have a destination to go to. You know the final boss is going to be there. Do everything else in the world before you get to that point. That's where I'm at right now.
Oh, you're at the point of no return, basically.
Yeah. Essentially, if I go to that point now, that's going to be the end of this run. So I can't then come back out to do the other side stuff. But then I've got one of my main characters in my party is currently has a modifier. Without going too much into detail about how the build works, the modifier is basically has the opportunity to 50% of the time either do 50% damage or 200% damage. And with the other modifiers I have stacked on there, if I get the 200% trigger, one of the abilities that this character can use will easily output about 3.5 million damage. So it's very much like a one-bow combo, one-hit kind of thing right there, if I get it right.
You know what? So if you do the maths, you're averaging 125% damage with that.
Yep, absolutely. There you go. Yeah. Quick math.
So yeah,
it's a great game though, honestly. Great game.
Oh, I can't wait to sink my teeth into it. But you remind me, Blizzard Oblivion actually has a point of no return. But then you do return. But then you do actually return from it.
Nice. Oh, okay.
Like, you get a point where you're going into Mankar Cameron's like own personal pocket version of Oblivion, and Martin's like, make sure you've got everything you need, because you won't be able to come back. You do that bit and you just come back. And he's like, oh, well, I've got the next chapter. But literally the next chapter is just the end of the game. But you do come back.
Fair enough.
But that game is a buggy mess. And it
wouldn't be a Bethesda game without it being.
It's a buggy mess. I have horses just spawn. If I fast travel to a city, walk out the gate, there'll be a horse. It's not my horse. I don't own a horse. There'll just be a horse every single time. It crashes a lot.
Okay.
You walk into a room and things just fall off shelves.
Hey. Just like real life.
Yes, just like real life. And it is a mess, but I still loved every minute I played. Yeah.
It's part of the charm of Oblivion, I think. I think it's just part of the charm of Bethesda games in general. Whether it is, the remake or not, it's part of parcel of what an Elder Scrolls or a Fallout game is, isn't it, really?
It is. I'm not letting it off because, for me, remasters shouldn't have the same issues as the original version of the game. Okay. That if you remaster a game, fix the problems. I feel like they've introduced new problems.
Nice.
But I don't know why it crashes all the time, but if you are playing Oblivion and think about it, make sure you have quick save set keybound. I have quick save set to down on the D-pad and quick load to left on the D-pad. Just so it's, if you do something significant, hit it. Because the game will crash.
There you go, folks. It's one of Richie's top tips for you right there if you're getting into Oblivion Remastered.
Yeah. But again, despite its problems, I still love that game. I'm glad I played it and glad I finished it. But Expedition 33, I'm so looking forward. 45 quid as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. Again, I said to Chris a couple of episodes ago, I was like, it's a hell of a price for the game that you're actually getting. Like, don't get me wrong, it isn't without faults. Like, I would put this as sort of like a... I mean, I've got to give it a 9.5 out of 10 if I was going to rate it on a scale of 10. I can't give it a 10.
Such low numbers there.
I know. I can't give it a 10. It does have its sharp edges, like here and there. It's not perfectly polished, but it is a damn good game for the price that you are paying, and it is very, very worth people's time.
I do feel like if you're scoring out of 10, that last 0.5 is polish.
Yeah.
If you don't have it, the game has to be smooth, flawless, run well, consistently. Yes. Otherwise, you're getting the 9.5 max. So if you're getting a 9.5, you're doing a fucking good job.
Well, that's the thing, really. Like I say it like I'm talking it down, but it really is critical points at that stage, because it's that, you know, I said it before a couple of episodes ago. The combat is so clean and so well done for a turn-based system. Like it just feels right. It's taken everything from the Persona, particularly Persona 5, in terms of like the UI and stuff. Added in with the way that the camera angle changes when you navigate between menus, just to the feel and sort of like the almost like the chew, like the bite from the hits of weapons. It just feels right. And it's just made better by playing on PS5 with like that haptic feedback on the controller too. Just the sense of response that you get just from in your hand alone just feels it's perfection. The way the combat is done is faultless.
The more I hear about it, the more it feels like this is a love letter to RPGs made by fans of RPGs, all different kinds, who've took elements of some of their favourite RPGs, blended them without it feeling generic.
Yes. Definitely. That's pretty much how I would write a review on that sort of basis.
Oh, damn, I knew it. Right, let's get this podcast done so I can well, we can't get this podcast done until, Tom, you introduce us to the
graciously gathered Gamer Guild Gazette, a.k.a. The News!
The News! And as always, our news is brought to you by our wonderful guild heroes, which you can join for as little as 99p over on the YouTube channel. Gives you early access to some shows like Pokemon Blue when I finally get time to sit back down and record. I was planning to get some more episodes recorded this week. It didn't happen because of things like Summer Games Fest and just time commitments and work, and sometimes in an evening getting in after work and going, I cannot be bothered to record. I just want to play Oblivion. I'll be honest with you guys, I could have recorded. I played Oblivion instead. But I will get back to it. I will get some recording done. Hopefully have some episodes start dropping again from next week. First news story, Tom. Nintendo have done a thing. What have Nintendo done this week? What have Nintendo been up to?
I don't know. I feel like I've been living under a rock a little bit. Apparently, something new has come out on the market, and apparently, like, you can't get it anywhere. Something about a Switch, a light Switch 2 or something.
Yeah, like the Nintendo Light Switch 2. It turns on your lights and turns them off. It's got two functions.
It's a Switch 2.
No. But you mentioned availability. I have seen both comments online this week about the Switch 2's availability. Some people saying, can't get one anywhere, Nintendo shocking, they should have enough supply. Then a few people going, I've just walked into my local shop and there's a few boxes left. Nintendo is clearly not selling as well as expected. It's like, fuck off.
Well, I'd love to know exactly where these people live, because I've literally, right before this episode, been in town, and I thought, you know what, while I'm in town, I'll hit up all the local stores that might, by chance, just happen to have one. Nope. Not a chance whatsoever. For those people who do live in the UK, I hit up. I went to Sports Direct, went to Game, hit up Argos as well. Walked into just your general supermarkets, into Sainsbury's, into Asda, and no luck whatsoever. Like not there.
I really don't know what the distribution for something like Switch 2 into like UK brick and mortar would be, because Game was always the biggest gaming shop, but now it's a small corner of Sports Direct, which is a budget sports shop.
Yep.
Then you got your supermarkets who probably don't carry huge amounts of stock because they have to carry so much different kinds of stock. Argos is probably your best bet.
Yeah, I'm thinking like your Argos or your Curry's PC World kind of vibe.
Yeah.
They're kind of like the main ones I would see these days as being a place to pick something up on the go. Other than that, in the UK, outside your supermarkets and Game, you're probably looking at online retail only, aren't you? I can't imagine like your Marks and Spencers or your John Lewis stocking this kind of thing.
Maybe John Lewis, because doesn't John Lewis have like tech? I've never actually been in a John Lewis. There isn't one anywhere near where I live.
Exactly. That's the thing. For us to get to a John Lewis, you'd have to travel up to we'd have to head up north to the Metro Centre or to Newcastle itself.
It's like Waitrose. It feels dangerously southern.
Yeah, probably. If you were to look at like a map of density for the stores, you'd probably see a lot more of them lower down south. Let us know if you live up north and you happen to know where a John Lewis is.
But it's when I saw comments, people going, "Oh, there is stock on shelves near me." And then having a go at Nintendo, I was like, have you not thought that maybe Nintendo have been planning this launch probably for quite a long time? After the original Switch they've really struggled to keep up with demand for years. Maybe they've been stockpiling this shit for the last probably several years of manufacturing before it was even formally announced. Just a thought, because that's kind of what I would do after the success of the Switch. And with the Switch 2 kind of being unboxed pretty much everything I personally would want from a Switch 2. Give me a Switch, but better in every way. And let me play my old games. Oh, and also improve my old games. Mm-hmm. That all being said, I don't own one.
No.
Not because of anything to do with supply.
I think it's just one of those things, really, where it's like, I'd love to be there day one, getting my hands on it, but it's priority shift sometimes, and as much as I would love to have that opportunity to, I think it's just when the time is right. It's definitely on the cards. Like, don't get me wrong, I want to get my hands on a Switch 2. I want to, for sure.
Me too.
But as it is right now, it's not necessary for me. I think in the beginning, when a new console comes out, you tend to have sort of like a limited games catalog, don't you? I'd be very interested in Mario Kart World. Don't get me wrong.
Talking about games, I do have called Nintendo Live, the top selling eShop sellers for the Switch 2. Mario Kart World, which is cheating because it's bundled, but I'd also expect it to be number one. Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Switch 2 Welcome Tour, which feels for me should be bundled in for free. Deltarune, Cyberpunk, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild Upgrade Pack, Bravely Default Flying Fairy HD Remaster, which is a game actually I wouldn't mind playing because I do love Bravely Default, Fantasy Life, The Girl Who Steals Time, Street Fighter 6, and Fast Fusion.
I'm actually outraged that the Welcome Tour is on that list at number 3. I'm actually quite outraged by that, because I already think it's an absolute slap in the face that they're charging you for it. And not only that, but you actually need to have all of the accessories, like every single accessory that is currently available for the Switch 2. Yeah, in order to actually complete the Welcome Tour, you need to have all of those accessories. You can't actually use all of the content of a fucking paid game without having them.
That wouldn't be a problem for me. If the game was bundled in, it's a tech demo for the Switch. Guess what? Sony, not always the greatest when it comes to consumer-focusing ideas. Astrobot's Playroom, bundled in. Here you go. Here's a free piece of software to show off our hardware. That's what Welcome Tour is.
This is the difference, I think, sometimes between Nintendo and, yes, I know Nintendo have their place in the gaming world, and yes, it might be, it is my personal opinion, and it might be quite controversial, but I do think that Nintendo tend to be the grubbier sort of like money-grabbing kind of...
They're the Apple of the video game world.
They are. They're very much
it's
like, no, this is our
like,
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a closed ecosystem. It's... I'm not. I don't like Apple for that reasons. I don't like Nintendo for that reasons. But there again, Nintendo's software is usually so amazing. They kind of get a bit of a pass, where Apple's software tends to be worse than Android. So you're paying more for less. Yeah.
I have to bite my tongue a little bit because I'm sort of this mindset at the moment that I think, while I kind of agree to an extent that Nintendo should be given a pass on some things, I feel like in this day and age, especially with what Microsoft are doing, with trying to put things out everywhere, and Sony being a lot more accessible in terms of those free bundles, like getting the Astro's Playground and so on. I do think Nintendo need to.
Oh yeah, well, I'm totally calling them out for Welcome to and not being bundled in. It should just be bundled in. But there again, their business department will turn around and call me an absolute idiot. It's the third highest selling game on the Switch 2.
Yeah, that's the bit
Mario
that pisses
Kart
me
World,
off.
which is bundled in, and Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom, which I guarantee, which is the upgrade pack, by the way, which I can guarantee a lot of people are using to put this thing through its paces. Let's play a game I've played on the previous Switch. Let's see how it handles on Switch 2. It's the perfect test case.
But how many times do we say that, like, when they pull stupid shit like this, that people need to vote with their wallets and not actually buy? And then you see lists like this, and you see the upgrade packs on there, and you see the welcome tour on there, and you think, oh, for fuck's sake, guys. Again, really?
It's kind of my point. People are voting with the wallets. They're voting against us.
They're voting the wrong way with their wallets.
You're doing democracy wrong.
No wonder we live in this world that's currently going on out there outside the game ecosystem.
Do democracy how I tell you to do it.
Fucking hell.
Oh, that wasn't an expected deviation. But mentions the reason I personally haven't bought a Switch 2 has nothing to do with demand or the game library, because the game library is decent. I could go back and play with Zelda with an upgrade, buy the upgrade pack. In fact, I think with Switch Online, you do get the upgrade packs for some games anyway, which I do have Switch Online, so I have all that background. Bravely Default, I've said it'd be interesting playing. It is a remaster, so it's not a high priority, because I do have it on 3DS. Mario Kart World, I'd have an absolute blast playing, and I do intend to get it because I didn't have Mario Kart 8. I'm the one person in the world who had the Switch and didn't have it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm impressed that you've managed to avoid it that long.
Yeah, Cyberpunk, I'm not interested in the Switch. I've got it on PlayStation. I know CG Projekt Red have said the best place to play it mobile is on the Switch 2. I'm calling bullshit. I reckon the best place to play it would be something like a Steam Deck or PlayStation Port or something.
Yeah.
I feel like Switch 2 would be lower down without going into any reviews or anything.
I'd agree with you on that.
The other reason I'm not buying a Switch 2 is literally I'm going to play Expedition 33 next, so I don't necessarily need a Switch 2 now. And I also said, and I'm holding myself to this, I had to hold my nerve so much this week, and I'm not buying a Switch 2 till I sell my house. And then my treat to myself for selling my house, I'm going to buy a Switch 2, but then I'm going to have to stockpile the rest of the money because eventually I want to invest in my girlfriend's house.
Yep.
So that money I get from selling my house, a little bit's going to Switch 2, the rest is getting banked.
Oh, isn't it hard being an adult sometimes?
Yes. So my treat is the Switch 2. So that's why I've had to hold my nerve. It's like, I don't need it now. I know I want you can get it eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's it. Be a big boy, Richie. Be a big boy.
On next week's show, Richie gives us first impressions of the Switch 2.
I can see it.
No, I'm gonna hold my nerve. Chris might give his first impressions of the Switch 2 because I believe he has bought one.
God damn it! Of course he has.
I don't know if it's got delivered or anything. I haven't spoken to him in a few days because he's been moving. So we'll see more there.
It might be a surprise drop for both of us then, as well as everybody else on the channel.
Yeah, but from what I've read in terms of reviews of the Switch 2, I've not seen any surprises?
The only surprise I've seen is the fact that it doesn't seem to be... Again, I feel like I'm being really negative here. First of all, yeah, the majority of the reviews out there is that it is great and it feels really, really good. But the packaging I've heard is not excellent. I've heard that for some interesting reason, they've packaged it screen facing up with it right by the edge of the thin cardboard on the top. So I've heard that some units are getting damaged on delivery because of that. I've already seen a few smashed screens, dented screens, dead pixels, and so on. So I'm kind of thinking, oh, here we go again. But it wouldn't be a Nintendo launch without those sorts of things.
Yeah, I've seen as well, it's worth pointing out, I saw an IGN video saying it comes with what looks like a screen protector over the screen. That's meant to be on, so you're not meant to peel it off. That to me is bad design, to be perfectly honest. Every single technology that has a screen has a film protector that everyone pulls off. And if you need that on to protect your screen, your glass isn't good enough.
Yep.
I'm against screen protectors on phones because I think if you need to protect a screen, put a piece of plastic over your phone to protect it, then it's a shit design. But anyway, I'm being negative on Switch 2, but it is literally everything I expected it to be and exactly what I wanted.
Cool.
But I'm not allowed it.
Size-wise, I have to say, though, looking at some comparison images online, it's while it is bigger than the Switch, it's smaller than I thought it was going to be. Only in comparison to things like the Portal. But then, holding my Portal again last night, I was a little bit like, actually, this is quite a chunky boy. Like it's quite a big screen, isn't it, on the Portal? Yeah,
actually, I think what helps with the Portal is because it's got the PlayStation handles either side of it. So they've got a bit more depth to play with. So they can make it deeper without it impacting the feel of the console.
Yes.
Where Switch is very sleek, it's very thin. And I've heard Switch 2 is actually thinner than the original.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, which is a surprise to me because that would potentially have issues with cooling.
Yeah, I can see it. Again, Aztec's getting better. You know, they're working around those things. But again, a thinner device is going to have heating issues because it's going to have less ventilation. It's going to have less room for fans and heat sinks, isn't it? So,
the new dock's got a fan built in, probably to control the extra power of the hardware. So I feel like maybe the Switch 2 might get a significant upgrade when docked compared to where the Switch 1 I never really felt you did. I felt the difference between the Switch 1 and Switch docked and undocked is resolution 1080p rather than 720. But because of the screen size, I think that was not really noticeable. With Switch 2 going up to 4K docked, rumours of 4K 60, let's see if they hit it, because every console that's come out this generation has claimed 4K 60 or better, and very few of them have actually hit it in the majority of titles.
I'd love to see what the official benchmark is for actually being able to claim that. Like if
4K
there is
or
sort
60,
of guidelines.
4K or 60.
Yeah. So when they say 4K 60, it's like, is that is that it has to hit it for at least 0.6 seconds or something? Yeah. There's got to be some sort of benchmark for them to be able to legally claim that right there.
It's a theoretical thing, isn't it? There'll be some sort of internal benchmark. They might run, say, Breath of the Wild at 4K 60 docked, probably in a static screen, static area, with very little happening.
Do you see an OLED version coming out in future?
Yes.
Okay.
That is a big... I've seen comparisons where people going, I will miss the OLED, but I think the general consensus I've seen with regards to the OLED is the overall package of the Switch 2 is better. So while you are losing a bit of that vibrancy from the OLED, it's still a worthy upgrade.
Yeah. I sometimes feel that, like, even if just the experience of the user interface is smoother at a higher frame rate, that you can almost bypass it immediately, because to me, I mean, I've got to say, first of all, hands up and say that I've got very limited experience of actually using OLED devices, so I don't have a lot to go on in terms of saying, like, a direct comparison between LEDs and OLED models. But I do find that if if a user interface feels sleek and has a high frame rate to it and looks good and looks crisp, then I can kind of...
This is my OLED device. My Switch.
See, this is the thing. It shows up great on camera. If I were to pull up an LED device, chances are it would look crap on camera. Yeah. It's clean. It's the colours are very vibrant.
Technically, it's my girlfriend's Switch because I give mine to my nephew for his birthday.
Oh,
because she bought the Zelda Tears of the Kingdom OLED one when she bought a Switch, and then we decided we didn't need 2 Switches.
So what you're saying, Richie, is she has a Switch, your nephew has a Switch, but Richie doesn't have a Switch, and therefore there is room for a Switch 2?
Oh, there's definitely room for a Switch 2, but...
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway, my thing with the Switch is I bought a Switch. I had it pretty much since launch. She bought a Switch OLED because the Portal wasn't working. One of the reasons we bought a Portal was there to use on night shifts.
Yep. When
she actually just needs to be present.
Yeah.
So, and then for whatever reason, the internet wasn't working. So she thought it might just be, that's it, you can't use it. So she bought a Switch to take to work. And then it started working again, so now she's back on the PlayStation train.
Fair enough. Good on you. Good on you.
Right, I feel like we've talked about the Switch long enough. I would like to give it more room, but we do actually have to get into Summer Games Fest, Tom.
Wait, something else happened this week?
Yes, just quite a few things happened this week, to the point where Xbox is going to happen last week, but we're not covering it because at the time of recording, it's not their showcase. I think it's something like 9 o'clock in the UK on the Sunday, which doesn't really give me any time to edit this after. So we'll be covering that next week.
Bit of a delay on it, but hey.
Yeah, but Summer Games Fest 2025. Did you watch the show?
I did. Now, I spoke to you on the pre-show before about the fact that, I mean, it's been a rough week for me in terms of sleep and so on. So I went into this quite hazy. I think I would use the term to describe how I was feeling at the time. So I actually sort of put the Summer Game Fest on, sort of laid back, went horizontal, started watching it, and I kind of fell asleep about 2/3 of the way
through. Horizontal. Never go horizontal.
Yeah. Woke up to Jeff's sultry tones though later on in the night. You gotta be done.
I didn't watch it.
Okay.
I've sat the morning going through pretty much all the write-ups for every outlet I can find, watching the trailer, so the pick of the bunch. I'm not sure where you want to start. I've got a huge list of games in front of me.
Okay.
Where would you like to start?
I think, taking a look at it, there's a few games that were announced that I feel like we could touch on later. There's a few I won't say gloss over, but we can touch on very briefly. I think for me, one of the first ones that I would want to start off with, just thinking about the kind of vibes that you, me, and Chris have, and Rob as well, actually too, is I want to touch on the new strategy game that was announced, the Game of Thrones War for Westeros, because that very much felt for me like a game like a Battle for Middle Earth type title, which really, when I saw this game being announced and I saw what they were going for, I felt like the time is right. That I know Game of Thrones has been sort of, it's a little bit done, it's a little bit back in time. Yes, we've got House of the Dragon that's going on TV at the moment, but this is the first Game of Thrones game, besides the Telltale game, where I actually genuinely felt like this is something I want to experience. A real-time strategy game set in Westeros where you can play as one of the factions and you can create your own story and your own experience of the story of A Song of Ice and Fire. So you could play, what they showed in the trailer was they showed the battle between Jon Snow and the Night King, but a completely different turnout with the Night King killing Jon Snow at the end of it and turning him into a White Walker. It's just one of those things where I just think, you know what? You could have these real good approaches to an alternate scenario for the story, when we all know that everybody's sort of screaming at George R.R. Martin about, finishing the story, finishing the books and so on, which I don't think is ever going to happen now. The show is over. We got an ending that people weren't happy with and so on. So here's the opportunity now for you to create your own experience, your own story, the way that you want it to be. And I love a real-time strategy. I love it. Bring it on.
I feel as well like the IP lends itself quite well to a real-time strategy. Your hero units jump out straight away. It's the Starks, you're going to get Jon Snow. Lannister's going to get Jaime Lannister.
Absolutely.
You're going to get Drogon if you go with the Targaryens. Then you got the Night King. Because I do believe the White Walkers are a faction. They are a playable faction.
Absolutely.
And it does look like your kind of classic Age of Empires, Battle for Middle-earth kind of era strategy, real-time strategy, but with modern sensibilities and lots of characters on screen. Which sometimes that was one of the things, if you go back and play like the old Age of Empires where you get you can only have 80 units. It's it doesn't feel like a lot. But
what I like about it is I like the idea that you can choose how you want to play the game. So, you have got your factions that you can pick from. But you can go through the process of either, working solo, or you can work with other people against opponents, or you can suddenly switch and become a traitor and start attacking your friends as well. But I just love the idea that it's not so much grand strategy to an extent. I like the idea of a grand strategy Game of Thrones game as well, where
awesome.
You can sort of,
because then you get the more diplomacy elements and research elements in there rather than just straight up war simulator.
But I do love the idea of, building your barracks, building your houses, building your units that you need to go through, and go through the process of building your army up before unleashing them on whoever you're playing against. Like that to me is the idea of, with the Targaryens, I love the idea of being able to get dragons, for example, and being able to unleash dragons, as well as having your archer units, your mounted units, all this sort of stuff, Give me that. It's perfect.
I feel like if they nail the gameplay and the balance between the factions, this could be one of them games. It could be. It's not going. I don't think it's going to be groundbreaking in terms of it's going to Game of the Year contender or anything. But this could be a game that in 10 years' time they still bring out DLC for.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that they do add something like for the PC in particular, mod support, absolutely, because we all know that user-made content is the thing that literally will make or break these games, really.
Yeah.
Because, yes, the gameplay can be great, but it's that longevity, isn't it?
Mod support, getting people to be the ability to make custom things like custom campaigns, completely overhaul textures, do whatever they want, can really cement a community around a game like this. Because what if you want to know who will win between the Dothraki and Star Wars, the Clone Army? Let people not that into the game.
Might be a bit one-sided.
Yeah, the clone trip probably won't hit anything. And the Dothraki would charge him.
Yeah. But no, it's a game that I feel that I would be very much interested in playing this. It's been a while since I've played a good real-time strategy that isn't a remake of an Age of Empires game or going back and playing our classic, War of the Ring type stuff. Battle for Middle-earth. That is
my only reservation with this game is when it comes to real-time strategy, it's a genre I grew out of when I was a child, and once in a while I will have the urge to dabble, in which case I will reinstall Age of Empires 2.
Yeah.
And I will play for an evening or two, and then I'll be done. So it's an unlikely purchase for me, but is a game I very much hope does well and respect. I think Rob. If I had bet anyone I know to play this game to death, I think it would be Rob or Chris.
Yeah, I could definitely see the two of them. See the two of them. Okay. But slated for a 2026 release at this point anyway.
It is. I want to pick out of Worlds. Because, first of all, the naming convention, rename that thing, because we already have Outer Worlds and the Outer Wilds. So Out of Worlds, you're just confusing things there. but it is a cooperative stop motion game.
Absolutely.
I think it looks really cool. It gives me kind of something like It Takes Two kind of vibes, but in a 2D side scroller puzzle game. But they use actual stop motion animation. So in the trailer, you can actually see them playing around with the puppets.
Which I think is it's obviously a labor of love, this game, isn't it? But yeah.
Yeah, so I'm reading the blurb from the Epic Game Store. It goes, find your lost voices in a co-platform adventure together with a friend via online cross-platform or couch co-op. Explore the wild, colourful realm of Vocaboluntus as Kurt and Carla in a story about the first time they held hands, where everything you see is crafted by hand.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, I think it just looks like one of them kind of cute game where I think you could sit down on a couch and have a blast playing through it.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like it's full of puzzles. It looks like it's very much one of those, like you say, and It Takes Two, very much that sort of vibe. It's obviously made for two people. It's not something to experience solo. So it is something that...
It's something I've appreciated with Hazelight. I mean, this isn't Hazelight who's making this, but something I've always appreciated by Hazelight is they are uncompromisingly going, these are cooperative games.
Yes. Yeah.
These require two people to play, and you play together. You're not playing against each other, you're playing together. And because they're so rigid in that, the rest of the game design is always very interesting to how that works. Where sometimes you get single player games where it's a single player, but someone else can play alongside you, which is kind of oddly enough Marvel's Avengers, where I felt like the online, you weren't playing together with people, you were just playing in the same world as other people.
Yes,
there was no synergy there, but where I think that's where co-op stuff is important. You need to get that synergy between your players. You need to have them collaborating rather than just attacking the same target.
Yeah. And I think I think these sorts of games are doing very well at the moment. There's obviously very much a market for it. What with the success of Split Fiction, like you say, Hazelight are very much the masters of that craft right now. And with things like Split Fiction being picked up for a film adaptation as well, there's obviously going to be a lot riding on the success of It Takes Two and riding on the success of Split Fiction. I think we see a lot of these games moving forwards. I think a lot of these two-player couch co-op or online co-op games are going to be coming out in the next couple of years or so. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see more of these rising up. But the idea behind the stop motion, I think, is great. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's one of them. The stop motion makes it stands out, but I think that couch co-op style of game, it's making a comeback, and I think Hazelight have a lot to do with that, to producing games of such a quality. Like Split Fiction was amazing.
Yeah,
got the platinum in it. Loved that game. So, and it just feels like it's a genre that had been overlooked for a long time.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair.
Where would you like to go next? Because we have a lot. So
we do. I want to move on to another one that really stood out to me as being like an absolute what the fuck kind of game, and that is Felt That Boxing. From the moment that Jeff started mentioning the idea of Muppets being used in a gaming, it's this is a game that I looked at and I just thought, what the actual F is going on here? It very much seemed like, it's obviously very much pitched as a comedic boxing type game. Its description is that it is set in a world where the charm of furry puppets collides with the fury of boxing. You play as a puppet called Fuzzy, is his nickname, and he's looking to raise money to save his orphanage where he grew up. It very much gives me the vibes of like the classic Punch-Out games, but with a really crazy sort of Muppets twist. Like, what else can I say? It's very much like that first-person boxing type game. I have no idea how this is going to play. I have no idea what to expect from it, but it looks great. It looks like it's literally live action footage, every single part of it for using Muppets. Yeah, what else can I say about it, really? I think you're muted, Richie.
Yeah, if they made this into a horror-themed, Souls-like, roguelike, it'd be the most Jeff Keighley game ever. But, it's one of them, you can tell Jeff Keighley willed this into existence. Like, I want a game about Muppets. Muppets are going to fight, and I've got a feeling it'd be absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
It's not going to take itself too seriously.
I feel like it's going to have those sorts of like High on Life vibes, you know, that level of comedy where it is very in-your-face humor. Probably,
I've got feelings it's not going to be as irritating as Justin Roiland, though, because his humor can be quite irritating.
I feel like this is going to be one where, you're going to clearly find there'll be a puppet who's fallen on hard times, probably doing some hard drugs or something like that. There'll be a scene where somebody's...
You reckon they got hard drugs with Muppets?
I feel like they're going to do it. I feel like they're going to go very much down that sort of adult humor sort of vibe with it. Akin to a Team America sort of level of humor, or like a South Park level kind of thing. I don't know. I just get that vibe. I get that vibe.
Right. I'm looking at the Steam store description. There's a mature content description from the developers on it. This game contains stylized violence in the form of cartoonish boxing matches, includes some mild to moderate profanity, and explores adult themes such as death and abandonment through a darkly comedic lens. Sensitive topics like adoption and orphanage life are presented with a satirical humour that may not be suitable for all players. While there is no sexual content or graphic depictions of violence, the tone and subject matter may be considered mature.
Okay, so we're not going to go down the sexual content part.
No.
All right, okay.
But yeah.
I'm still holding out hope. It's a strange thing for me to say, but I'm holding out hope. There we go.
I'm going to jump to Ill next.
Okay.
So, Ill is a realistic first-person action horror game that takes you into a dark fort overtaken by mysterious entity, unpredictable monsters, a visceral dismemberment system, and realistic physics create an atmosphere of relentless terror. To me, it looks like quite similar to a Resident Evil if they went a bit more grotesque.
Yes.
And also leaned into the first-person shooter genre a little bit more.
It definitely gives up that vibe. It's obviously It's meant to be a first-person horror, but blast the shit out of these. You described it right. They're aberrations. They are grotesque. They are ultra-violent monsters in a way, really, aren't they?
Yeah, it's very body horror, isn't it? Like,
yes, absolutely. Lots of gore, I imagine. Like it says, visceral dismemberment. I feel like it's going to be one of these games where there'll be a lot of blood, a lot of limbs flying, a lot of things being destroyed.
It looked gorgeous, though.
Oh, yeah. God.
Not in the case of, that's pretty. It's like, in terms of like the performance and like the quality, it really looks up there.
It looks like the environments are very much... just handled very, very well. Things from like the destructible walls, things like objects being crushed and knocked off walls and knocked off shelves. Even just like the lighting effects and the effects of the guns being fired, those sorts of things just look very well polished. I think is, again, how I would describe it.
And I think to sell a game like this, the motion of the enemies needs to be on point. Because you want that smoothness in the motion to make it feel like real and visceral.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's one of them where I'm not usually one where says every game needs to be in 60 frames per second, but I feel like this game needs to be, because it's quite a realistic art style to it. So to kind of sell that life isn't in 30 frames per second, so you do want that fluidity of motion, and it can also be like creepier when it's very fluid. I feel sick. Where would you want to go next?
Right. Flipping on a complete 180 and going to something that looks a lot more lighthearted, a lot more relaxed in a way, I suppose. And also going back to the two-player co-op adventure type stuff is a Lego Voyagers game that's coming out.
Voyagers.
Absolutely. Published by Annapurna. There were quite a few Annapurna games I actually noticed coming out. Made by Lightbrick Studio. From the makers of Lego Builder's Journey comes a new two-player co-op adventure about friendship and play, where two friends make it their mission to rescue an abandoned spaceship. They embark on a journey beyond their wildest dreams. And I have to say, this game looked cute, it looked fun. You play as two 1x1 Lego studs with a little eye on them. And it looked like the kind of Lego game that I feel I've kind of been looking for a while, particularly something that I could see myself playing with my son in future, where these two studs, you can roll around, jump around, bounce around, you can pick up loose Lego pieces and snap to them. Being a 1x1, you can just click into a piece, and then that piece becomes an extension of your body, which you can then click onto something else, and then you can start building up and take those parts and use them to navigate through a level. So let's say you've got a bridge that's broken, you could take parts that you found, build a little platform, either build yourself a bridge or build yourself some stairs that will allow you to jump across. I can see you being quite creative with this and quite, having to think quite logically at the same time in order to be able to get you through these levels. I think visually it looks gorgeous. It's clearly Lego, but it also has that beautiful sort of I don't know how to describe the lighting, but it's
Minecrafty.
It's hazy, but it's nice. Like it's very visually beautiful in a way, really.
It's weird. I think it's weird describing a Lego game as Minecrafty because you describe Minecraft as Lego-y.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I can't. I think I might be all in this game because I enjoy Lego games. I haven't played that many, but when I have played them, I've enjoyed them. I enjoy playing them with my girlfriend as well. So having a very specific co-op adventure, like I could be 100% down for this.
Yeah.
I do hope, though, it does more Lego-y stuff than Lego Horizons Adventures did.
Yeah.
Because that game, as much as fun as it was, I felt like didn't lean into the Lego-ness of the game enough.
Okay.
It had the kind of Lego game humour to it and the Lego aesthetic, but you didn't spend a lot of time like building stuff or using. It was very much just a top-down action game. Remind
me, I've not played the Lego Horizons game.
It's worth playing.
Was it one that was built by like in the style of Traveller's Tales game where you have like the characters you can swap through and the different like coins and collect and things to collect? Okay.
They removed a lot of that stuff, so you didn't have like the red bricks to collect. You only had 4 characters to choose between. Each of them did have different abilities, but it was only 4, and the abilities rarely interacted with the world around you. Where the Marvel ones, you have with the Marvel ones, you have a huge roster of characters, and you might need some like Ant-Man to go into a small little maze, or you might need Human Torch to set someone on fire. And there's a lot of focus on how these characters interact with the world around you. I never really felt there was much of that.
No, this game certainly gives me vibes of that it's a focus more on the co-op gameplay, isn't it? And that sort of that making your way through solving these puzzles to be able to get through to the end goal.
Right. As I said, the one thing I hope from it is it does have that creativity of Lego in the gameplay. So it's like, here's a problem, here's some stuff, you figure it out, and there's no like one correct solution.
Yes. Yeah, I think again, thinking back on the Traveller's Tales games, it was very much like, you went around destroying things to get the pieces, but then you would hold down a button and it would build the thing. I'm with you. I hope it is very much like you found these pieces, now how are you going to use them to get across, rather than, great, go over here and hold a button to build a bridge. Yeah.
Sticking with Lego Party. They're announced a party game. I don't really have much to say about this because it's a party game in the vein of something like Mario Party, But it's Lego.
Yeah. I mean, there's not much competition in this marketplace, is there really?
No. You've got Mario Kart and that's about it.
Yeah. So I'm for it, in a way. Yeah. I hope it does well, but I can see it being a little more generic than a Mario Party, because obviously it's Lego, it's just generic Lego people.
Well, yes, but they also have the advantage of, because Lego's generic and they've got so many different kinds of Lego sets, everything from like, just looking at the Steam store page, they've got people snowboarding, they've got a pirate ship, they've got aliens, they've got like some sort of like mecha samurai going on. They could have a lot of fun with that, and because it's Lego, it could do the Fortnite thing, where it brings in its IP, the IP from outside, to add to it. So I feel like it's a game that has a lot of potential, but it is risk of falling generic.
Yeah. Yeah, it says it comes with 60 mini games as well, and it looks like there is a level of customization with unlocking, like you say, Lego costumes and things like that. So you can customize your character. We'll see. But again, if it's going to compete with a Mario Party, it's going to have to absolutely kick ass in order for it to actually stand out, isn't it?
I doubt it's ever going to truly compete with a Mario Party, but it could be a reasonable alternative for non-Nintendo fans. And again, I think it's because it's Lego, this could be a platform that could be built on.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Right, moving on, I'm going to change over to looking at Mortal Shell 2, I think, next. I'm going to start looking at these through the logical order that we've got them written down in the document here. So, Mortal Shell, game that came out quite some time ago, essentially falls into the Soulsborne sort of genre. It's an action RPG, very high stakes combat, very much you kill this thing or you die, simple as. Mortal Shell always fell short of the Soulsborne, like the Dark Souls quality in terms of the way that it played, but it was still a good game. Mortal Shell 2 looks like it's actually going to build on that. It looks like there's a lot more focus on the particularly in the animation. It's very stylized. It's very much along the lines of you can see it alone just by looking at any of the footage that it looks very much like a Dark Souls, like a Bloodborne. It's obviously very inspired by that. It's something that I think, again, its success is going to come from how well it actually stands up to an Elden Ring in this day and age as well, really.
In a very increasingly crowded genre. The kind of Soulsborne action RPG style, but then you're giving it a gritty fantasy thing in there as well.
Yeah.
That is like half the games coming out right now.
Yep.
Oh, and it's got horror elements in there as well. It's literally kind of it's one of them. In theory, this should be the most geisty game ever. It should do well, but as someone who's not a fan of the genre, to me it looks just like another game like that. So I think the biggest difference I can see is the gunplay. That's the only thing when I'm watching the trailer that kind of jumps out. It doesn't look bad in any way, shape or form.
Yeah.
But there again, I was talking to my girlfriend about this. When there's certain genres that you're just not interested in, it does every game, and it seems to come out looking very similar. Because my eye isn't tuned into that style of game to know what's special about this particular game.
Yeah, I can agree with that, and that comes from somebody who is interested in these kinds of games. I think at the moment it runs the risk of becoming very oversaturated, and
I think as a non-fan of it, it is very saturated. Every game, nowadays, I am double checking: is it going to be Soulsborne? If it's an action RPG, is it Soulsborne?
It's just something at the moment that I feel like. I'm getting tired of it to an extent, and I say that with a little bit of a heavy heart to it, because I love the Dark Souls games. I find them fantastic. I spent a lot of time playing Sekiro, even to the point that I have to admit on the podcast that Elden Ring is a game that I've bought but have played very little of.
Oh, I've took down the first boss in Elden Ring.
I have just not found. I've not found the energy to want to play it, because I think I'm just too overexposed to it at this point.
That's my thing. When the more we watch these things, it's what gets me a bit negative, I think, on the Soulsborne genre, because I do respect it. I just know it's not for me. Is it feels like almost every game that is like a fantasy action game is now going the Soulsborne route, and I just kind of sat there going, and another one.
Yeah.
And it is a shame. I always try to champion diversity in games in this channel. So there is a place for Soulsborne, there is a place for Battle Royale, there is a place for extraction shooters. But it gets frustrating when almost everything comes out is either survival horror, roguelike, Soulsborne, or games as a service. And then
it's difficult.
Yeah,
it's just difficult because we're at a point here where I think that
it's the current
a lot of
safe
games
trend.
Yeah, it is. It's safe trend. It's what's putting money in pockets, isn't it? And it's becoming less about the craft and less about the the creativity, and more about, well, this is clearly done well, so let's make our iteration of that. I think this is why we're starting to see again another trend towards remakes and remasters once more, because rather than creating something new into that saturated marketplace, it's let's go back to what's being done already and repackage that and resell that. Yeah. And I feel like that's what's kind of hitting the industry to an extent, is that it's kind of killing that creativity. It's maybe not killing it, but strangling it, making it die a slow, asphyxiated death.
Yeah, it's like, I think on the back of Skyrim, everything went big open world, sandbox RPG.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that genre very much felt overly played out. But then it's, as other genres have took the precedence, like things like Oblivion and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 have had room to breathe and to really shine this year.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a bit of a rant.
Yeah.
Well, not so much a rant, more as an explanation of why I have a rant in me about it. I want to move next to Chronicles Medieval.
Good.
Because it is actually an open world action sandbox RPG.
Yeah.
But despite the fact that it was narrated by Tom Hardy, which, fair enough, it looks gorgeous.
It does. It really does. It gives me vibes of games that I actually really love, like Mount and Blade. So those sorts of games where you create your own story, you sort of determine your own path by like recruiting people and going out and conquering and building up your own little army, fighting for land, making your own glory and so on. I'm hoping it is, but it also looks like it has inspiration from
Total
fighting
War.
Games like Total War, even mixed with things like For Honor, where you have very much like stylized combat in there too. Yeah. I like that they've taken what looks like, particularly from the dev blog that they posted, that there is real inspiration here from people using medieval weapons and fighting and sort of motion capturing what the actual combat styles would have been like when you're holding a giant great sword or a flail or something instead.
Yeah, so the blurb is, Chronicles Medieval lets you step into a vast, dynamic medieval sandbox, create your character and forge your path from rags to riches, engage in intense combat, fight for land, glory and legacy, and lead massive armies in epic large-scale battles. So it does seem to be more focused on like armies battling each other, with you being a character on the battlefield and probably impacting decision-making, probably the leader of the army, rather than more like an Oblivion where you play your character.
Yeah. So it's very much, like I say, it looks like it takes inspiration from systems from games like the Mount and Blade franchise, where it is, recruiting, training, leading troops into epic battles, commanding historical units like English longbowmen or the devastating French cavalry, issue orders and fight alongside friends in custom battles. Adapt, react, and execute. That's what comes from it right there. So it's almost like a mixture between, excuse me, that Total War, Chivalry, Mount and Blade sort of package in a medieval Europe.
It's that kind of category of games like Mount and Blade.
Yes.
Yeah, there's some Total War elements in there. And it looks like they've kind of tried to be true to medieval history as well, in terms of how the battles kind of play out. Maybe not necessarily in terms of the story.
Yeah.
Do we know if it's actually set in medieval Europe? Like, legitimately
it does say on the Steam page, if you look further down, it says, enter our vibrant medieval Europe, a sprawling sandbox of unrest, invasions, and alliances. Create your character and experience a path filled with conflict and opportunity. Forge your destiny and rewrite history. So they are writing medieval Europe quite a bit in the descriptions that have been posted online. So it is directly referencing English longbowmen, French cavalry. So it does look like it is going to be set in a sort of real world. Now, whether that is going to be based on historical maps or whether it is going to be a sort of alternate universe version of Europe with English factions, with French factions, with Germanic factions, and so on as well. Who knows at that point? But all signs at the moment point to medieval Europe. Well,
it comes out in 2026, so I think this is one we'll probably hear more about probably later in the year, maybe Game Awards, or maybe this time next year. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear about this Summer Games Fest 2026 with an actual date on for later in the year next year.
Definitely. We also saw at the Summer Game Fest as well, just a couple of titles to list off just to get through these, because I know we're not going to be able to talk about all of them, are we? We saw more about Death Stranding 2 with a nice little presentation from Hideo Kojima himself, talking about two characters and how impactful those characters are going to be in the story, talking about how they built on changes from Death Stranding in how the story is going to develop further. But as that game is essentially on our doorstep now, I think it doesn't warrant much more discussion, really.
Yeah, I didn't want to go deep into Death Stranding in this show because it's absolutely stacked. And to be honest, I'd rather focus on the stuff that we don't know much about.
Yeah.
And Death Stranding is pretty much in the news every other week. So,
absolutely. Now, one thing, Richie, that I was quite pleasantly surprised about, obviously seeing this at a previous event was mentioning Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, but now actually seeing some of the additional races that they mentioned coming out for this. So they're now showing that the Sonic Racing Cross World is now going to also have a season pass with collaborations with other game franchises as well. So once the game comes out, you are going to find that as well as the Sonic characters, they announced at Summer Game Fest that you'll also get Hatsune Miku, you will get Joker from Persona 5, and you will get Ichiban from Yakuza Like a Dragon as a character for free post-launch. So it looks like, as well as being a Sonic game, they're very much diving into that Sega and expanded universe type stuff, because they also announced, as a special announcement at the end, that you're also going to be getting Minecraft characters as part of a season pass as well. So lots of opportunity for them to open this quite wide. It's obviously looking as another competitor to your Mario Kart. Sonic has been doing racing games for a while now. They've obviously not taken over in terms of it, but it's still fun.
It feels
what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel like the Sonic games have always been quite fun, but haven't quite nailed what makes something like a Mario Kart or Crash Team Racing special.
Yes.
It feels like you got Mario Kart and Crash Team Racing at the top tier of kart races. Then maybe you got like Sonic underneath it, and then you get into the dross.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
The potential is there. I just find it weird. The thing I find weird about a Sonic racing game is when you see Sonic in a car.
Yep.
He can run faster than the car.
Yep.
But I used to love. You know what? You know what has an absolute banging soundtrack?
Go on.
The game's kind of shit, but Sonic R.
I used to love Sonic R.
I used to love it.
I used to love that game.
Objectively, the game's terrible, but I used to love the game, and the soundtrack is fucking banging. It goes harder than it needed to.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah. Code Vein 2 is another one that got announced. Mm-hmm. Do you know anything about Code Vein? Because to be perfectly honest, I don't.
No, it's annoying because it was one of these games that actually I remember being interested in it when it first came out.
I recognise the name, but
yeah. But I don't remember why in particular I didn't go for it. It's very much that sort of it's stylized anime in a way, isn't it? It's that sort of like Japanese RPG, not JRPG, but more like an action RPG. Very anime inspired, but it also looks like it's very much got that. Yeah. Again, I want to lean towards that darker sort of universe vibe to it.
Yeah, it definitely does. It definitely has got that. But I think the anime aesthetic does make it stand out a little bit more. It might be just because I'm keen on that aesthetic a bit. But it's an epic adventure awaits where you and your chosen partners explore the vast world, face fierce battles against powerful enemies, and uncover an epic story that transcends time. It's a Bandai Namco game. It could be a good one. I feel like I need to see more from it, though.
Okay.
I need, or maybe I should look at, read up on what Code Vein 1 is a bit more.
Yeah. Now, one game that surprised me coming out at this was, and again, I don't have much history with it, but the sequel, Atomic Heart 2, was one that I saw this pop up. Again, another open world action RPG by Mundfish, shooter. It looks fantastic in this very much sort of futuristic, but sort of Cold War inspired Russian. I don't know how else to describe it. Really, almost it's got steampunk vibes to it, but not quite steampunk. It's very. I would almost call it like nuclear punk vibes in a certain way.
It looks kind of Fallout-y in places.
Yes, yeah, that's a good way of describing it. It's setting It's taking the description straight from the Steam page. It is set in a living world, rich with possibilities and a heavy emphasis on the story, role-playing elements, and player freedom. The sequel to Atomic Heart relates new events unfolding in the retro-futuristic universe of an alternate history. This time, the action takes place on a global scale. And I don't know about you, but I don't know whether there's all this focus on Unreal Engine 5 at the moment, and just where we're at with hardware in general. Some games just look fucking gorgeous. It's the only way I can describe it. Like, it just looks nice. Now, like I say, I have no experience whatsoever with Atomic Heart, so I can't say, the game came back out in 2023, so it's only been a couple of years, but it looks like it's got that, like you say, Fallout, Far Cry springs to mind as well, the vibe, BioShock sort of vibe to it, in the sense of how the gameplay actually functions. You have typically you have your weapons, you have some form of power and ability to use at the same time. So actually, the more I'm talking about this, the more I'm actually thinking it does give me more BioShock vibes, just in the way that it seems to be playing. So it might be more akin to that.
BioShock is probably better than Fallout, actually.
Yes.
Looking at it.
They also announced that they're actually making an MMORPG based in this universe as well, called The Cube as well, which is quite interesting.
What was surprising for me about the announcement of Atomic Heart 2 is Atomic Heart was only came out in 2023. I actually thought it was last year, off the top of my head. I remember covering it. We must have covered it on X Pass. But Atomic Heart 1 is on Game Pass.
Oh, I've got a special guest appearance.
You have. It's not on camera right now, but Tom's son has just walked in. And so is his wife.
It's like one of those when you see the cutouts from the news stories of people during COVID and their kids are walking in on them.
Chris's daughter's walked in on this before, and it is just adorable. But yeah,
bless her.
He wasn't on camera. He was cut off just before.
That's all right.
Oh, he might have been, but
That's
but
okay.
yeah. But Atomic Heart 1, if you're interested, is on Game Pass.
Cool. All right.
Where
Check it out.
Go to next is Mina the Hollower.
Okay.
So this is from Yacht Club, the guys who made Shovel Knight.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't. It has some. I'm watching the trailer, and there's some scenes remind me so much of like a Legend of Zelda, like a Game Boy Legend of Zelda in the art style and the way it plays out. Sometimes I never played Hollow Knight, but do you think this is Yacht Club going right? We've done their kind of side-scroller action game. What we're going to tackle next? We're going to do more of like a Zelda, an more open world action, like top-down action game.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it very much leans heavily into that sort of SNES vibe in terms of the user interface, the pixel art style, and so on. It's I have to say though, it looks very reminiscing of those styles. It looks like it's done very much with good, in good faith and in good sort of representation of it. I think sometimes you see games that try to buy into the style of being retro and using pixel art, but they fall shy of the mark. This seems to very much look like it is a game that is meant to be released for Super Nintendo.
The features on the Steam page say hauntingly authentic 8-bit visuals.
Yeah.
It feels like this, if it wasn't for in widescreen in 1080p in like 16:9, it feels like this could be playable on the Game Boy, classic Game Boy. And I think that's where they've nailed the visuals. Clearly, it's probably rendered at a much higher resolution than anything the Game Boy could actually handle. Mm-hmm. But they've done it in a way that it looks 8-bit.
Absolutely. It looks good. It looks good. I was quite surprised though, because I genuinely thought there were rumors going around that Yacht Club games were actually they put job listings out there for 3D artists. So there were rumors floating around that they might be making some sort of like 3D Shovel Knight-esque game instead.
These models could be in 3D. They look like sprites, but in the same way as Square doing their 2D HD stuff, which are kind of a combination between sprites and 3D models. Some of the things in the world could actually be 3D models, but the way it's playing out, so instead of like having that full smooth 360 like turning cycle, if you have it in kind of like fragmented, so you can only maybe turn like 20 degrees or something at a time, but it's actually a 3D model. You can just go snapping. Yeah. So that might be a way of getting the full 360 or every different, instead of having a million different sprites, you create a 3D model. So at certain camera angles, which is fixed to, looks like sprites.
Yeah. But so it looks a great game.
Yeah.
Just, I think it's going to be another game that for me is going to be in my library. I'll get to it when I get to it. Sorry, yes. Yacht Club. It's up my street, but it's not very far into the streets, so to speak. Really. Yeah,
it's on my radar, but it's not an immediate purchase. But it is out on the 31st of October this year.
Yeah. So it must be pretty much ready to go at this point. We also had a shadow drop. We had Lies of P Overture DLC. which, you know, it has been shown off before, but to get the Shadow Drop at Summer Game Fest, it wasn't a real big surprise in terms of something that couldn't have been predicted. But it is something that, again, you know, as somebody who loves the Soulsborne genre, the Souls-like genre, I have not yet played Lies of P, but now to also have the opportunity to play it and the DLC, I'm very much interested in that as well. So yeah,
I've also beat the first boss in Lies of P.
Nice.
Which is on this channel.
Yeah. There you go watch it.
That's how it goes for me with Soulsborne games. I'll play the first boss on the channel if I feel like for content, and then I'll go, nope. Not again.
I feel like as we're going through this, I'm just now starting to appreciate how many games were announced at Summer Game Fest, because when I was watching it, I did kind of feel a little bit like
we're glossing over some big stuff as well, like Jurassic Park World Evolution 3 was announced. There's new DLC for Hitman World of Assassination where you can hunt the Chief, who is actually played by Mads Mikkelsen in game as well.
Nice.
And you'll get DLC for 007 First Light if you do it, I think within the first month. There's loads of other stuff, so we do really need to wrap up this section because otherwise we'll go forever. So
should we give a quick shout out then to actual gameplay footage from Onimusha Way of the Sword by Capcom, the new Onimusha game after a franchise that's been gone for quite some time. A shout out to showing some gameplay from Arc Raiders as well, which again is an October game. I'm actually quite interested in that. And the last one I'll mention before I pass it back over to you, Richie, is the fun little announcement of the Deadpool VR game, which Jeff Keighley was handed a red envelope on stage, and then all of a sudden Deadpool took over Summer Game Fest, and a VR game. I was not expecting that.
I saw the announcement. Wasn't it about he was about to announce Capcom's latest biggest game, and then Deadpool took over the show.
Yep.
But yeah, so I do want to round out the section because there's no way we could not talk about this game with Resident Evil Requiem.
Yep.
We have Resident Evil 9 announced, officially formally announced. We don't really know much about it yet, though.
Nope. Very, very early stages with Resident Evil 9 right there. And like you say, the 9 being fit into the Requiem as the Q as well. I mean, it is just being titled Resident Evil Requiem. Yes. So they're sort of not straight up throwing the 9 in there, but just
it's kind of like Resident Evil Village wasn't Resident Evil 8 Village. They just worked. So what do you think 10's going to be then?
I'm not even going to go down that path yet.
But a bit too early for that.
Interestingly, there's a lot of rumors going out there that this game is actually going to be the character that they've announced so far is Grace Ashcroft, who is a descendant of Alyssa Ashcroft, formerly of one of the earlier games of Resident Evil Outbreak, which is quite an interesting connection being made there. But there are rumors going around that she will not be the main character in this game, and that we actually may be looking at potentially a new Leon Kennedy game here as well.
Yeah, you think it might be a bait and switch. She might be integral to the plot, where maybe she might be the antagonist, for all we know at this point. But the trailer does focus on her. She seems to be like a reporter, as far as I can make out. She has a very untidy desk, lots of papers there. And then she gets sent to a hotel where I think her mother was killed, which seems to be the setting of the game.
Yeah, that is the link to Resident Evil Outbreak right there, which is what kind of ties into the whole Leon Kennedy thing. But again, visually, looks gorgeous, looks like a Resident Evil game. There's something about the Resident Evil engine that is just very, very nice at the moment, since the last few games right there. I
feel like there's hints that there might be like a boss character that kind of hunts you through the hotel. Yeah. Kind of like in Resident Evil. Is it Resident Evil 2? And Resident Evil 3, we've got Nemesis hunting you for
Yeah,
the entire
yeah,
streets.
2 and 3.
Yeah.
2 and 3, essentially.
So it feels like they might be going that line. Is this set in Raccoon City? Because it would be nice to return to Raccoon City, to bring back Umbrella properly, and really go back there.
There was a sign above the door to the hotel that said RP, I think, as well. So whether it is a reference to it or not, I'm unsure. But hey, we'll have to wait and see. But from first looks, again, looks great. Looks like a good Resident Evil game.
It does. We have a release date as well. 27th of February next year. It's not even that long ago. So it's kind of nice sometimes when they go, okay, here's your first look at a game. It'll be with you in 8 months.
Yeah.
Rather than, here's the first look at a game. We'll talk about it again in 3 years' time.
Absolutely. Wow. I think we could be onto something very interesting here.
Yeah. Indeed, but I think that wraps that part of the show because we still have a state of play to break down. So I'm only going to pick out a few titles for state of play. Okay. We need to go quick because we are pushed for time. 007 First Light. We have a title. We have gameplay footage. We have footage. What are your first impressions of 007 First Light from the state of play?
Okay, so first thing I would say is I really hope this builds on the interactivity of the Hitman World of Assassination stuff that IO are known for. I hope that we can have in the trailer we had things being shown like James Bond being given like the watch, talking about gadgets, those sorts of things. I hope we get that sort of interactability in game. It's very much his origin story, so it's very much about the recruitment of James Bond and the sort of first mission, hence the name First Light, right there. I think it looks good. It very much gives me the vibes of Uncharted. That's the vibe I get from this.
Yes.
A James Bond Uncharted style.
If they do like a weird blend of Uncharted and Hitman, so you've got these Uncharted narrative-driven action-adventure gameplay, but with these kind of sandboxy elements that you get from a Hitman game, with the James Bond skin over it, I'm in.
Yeah. It's the only thing I would say at the moment is I don't know whether he looks too generic. I get the vibe looking at him that he doesn't stand out. He looks... I know James Bond is traditionally meant to be quite a handsome man and so on, but I almost feel like the model they've gone with maybe a little bit too much like that. But again, we've seen companies change these styles up before. We've seen things change. We've only seen a glimpse of this at the moment. I'm sure we'll get more when we get to in the coming days, in the coming weeks, and so on. But I'm still hopeful for it.
It might be a smart choice with it being his first outing as well, where I feel like what they're doing, especially with starting with this as an origin story for how he becomes 007. They're doing the Casino Royale thing without doing the Casino Royale story. Is they're setting this up so they can continue with future things, but have it at their own version of the Bond universe, separate to the movies or anything.
Yes.
Which I think is the smartest move they could have made. Don't try to tie into it anything that Bond's ever been or done. Obviously, you take the key elements, you take things like M and Q and all, and MI6, and probably eventually you're going to add elements in from things like Spectre and stuff. But just do your own thing, entirely new stories.
But it does look like you're going to have a lot more than just the on-foot moving around. It looks like there's going to be the opportunity to do the classic James Bond car chases, getaways in speedboats, that sort of thing too. It's obviously going to be... It's going to be interesting, but like I say, I think the thing for me is it's very much looks like it takes inspiration from Uncharted.
You know what it is? It's a PS5 era take on a PS2 era genre. If you think about the PS2, if you think about the PS2 era James Bond games, where different levels, you have a car level and maybe a plane level, and you have a stealth level, you kind of looks a bit like that. The more you mention it, but with modern sensibilities. I think this could be incredible. I really do.
I hope it does as well, because I think the 007, like the James Bond franchise, needs to be a hit moving forwards. Again, now what with all the changes with it being purchased by Amazon and the likes too. I think,
you know what?
Yeah.
Despite I'm saying that it looks like this kind of mismatched gameplay genres at times, I trust IO because when it comes to the Hitman World Assassination, the gameplay is front and center in them. They know how to make the gameplay feel really good and how to do stealth gameplay without having to crouch to hide and then no one can suddenly see you. So it's... And the kind of procedural, the way them systems work when you're in the kind of sandboxy zones and like Hitman works so incredibly well.
Yeah.
I think this could be an excellent game for next year.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Where would you like to go next? First, we've got a few more titles to get through quickly before we end.
I think I want to talk about one of the big ones that stuck out to me, which is, and I was not expecting, Final Fantasy Tactics Ivalice Chronicles. Final Fantasy Tactics is finally back. It is the original. It is either playable as the original, or it is playable as a fully voiced over re-engineered version. What I mean by re-engineered there is, it's not a remaster. They have changed the graphics, they've changed the user interface, they've changed some of the interactability to it, but it's still the classic game. If you've not played Final Fantasy Tactics, it is one of the best Final Fantasy stories, hands down, but it is a very different gameplay style. So if you're not used to those sorts of, I guess by these days it's like you'd be comparing it more towards like an XCOM. But it is a classic take on that with the moving around of a chessboard type grid. But it's such a detailed character system with jobs and so on, in like the different roles you can have within it, and it's a hell of a story.
I always kind of think of like it's Square's take on something like a Fire Emblem.
Yes, that's right. That is where I'd put it.
I've never played either, but. Okay. It's a game I'm interested in because I've not played a single Final Fantasy Tactics game before, so I am glad it did jump out. I mean, I'm glad that's returning, but it falls in the category of I don't know when I'll play it, but it is out on the 30th of September.
This is the one that I would say is the Tactics game to play. It is the original. It is the tried and true. It's the one that inspired the Tactics Advance and the Tactics Advance 2, etc. Yeah. I will be playing this for sure. Like, this is definitely a game I will be playing.
It feels like a great Portal game as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what I'm thinking about here. I think it would do well on a handheld device. So having the Portal now, I talked about on the previous episode about how much I'm in love with that game, that device.
I know. I listen to the episodes like, yes, it's great, isn't it?
100% sold on it.
You know what? Your use case is very similar to my own.
Yeah.
Sat on the couch with your wife while she's doing something else. Yeah.
It's kind of making me want to buy the Pulse headset as well, I'll be honest with you. So I can actually have it mute. Because my headphones don't seem to work with it for some reason. So.
I just have mine on fairly low volume so I can hear it. But when Nat's playing something on the telly, she can hear that as well.
Nice.
But,
Fair. Fair enough.
I am going to just quickly glance through the last few. They deserve more time, but we're completely out of it. So we got a new trailer for Silent Hill F, which is the one that's set in Japan. That comes out on September the 25th. Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, which is a collection of the original Mortal Kombat arcade games and other. I think is some of the earlier Mortal Kombats. Comes out 2025.
It includes some of the handheld ones as well, amazingly.
Yeah, it does, yeah. It's basically all the early Mortal Kombat games from like probably the 90s, all in one collection, 2025. Metal Gear Solid Delta got another trailer at the PlayStation State of Play because they weren't allowed to put it at Summer Games Fest because Konami. And Kojima. Take that as you want. There was a new trailer for Neo 3, early 2023. There's a demo out immediately. Sword of the Sea got a new trailer, which is kind of like it looks like Journey inspired, where you go through like this kind of lush world riding a sword. Looks incredible. And FBC Firebreak got a new trailer, comes out June the 17th, so that's imminent.
I just want to give a quick shout out, by the way, Richie. Just looking through that, Sea of Remnants was one that really stuck out to me because it had a mechanic in it that wasn't really touched on much, but looking a little bit more into it was quite interesting. If they actually get this mechanic working the way that is intended, then it could be a real game changer in the industry. But essentially what they said was that when you play the game, you are essentially a person who is stranded in a flooded futuristic world.
I remember the one you're talking about now,
Yeah. So you pick, when you start the game, you pick from a list of people who have previously played the game or have made more progress than you. And that could be either a friend, it could be a random person, it could be a streamer or a YouTuber that you watch. And essentially their decisions that they make in their game will impact the way that NPCs react to you in your game. So it creates like a diverse storytelling option where if somebody does something negative in their game and you're following their story, then that person will react differently to you than they would have experienced. And I think that could really go down some interesting like branching pathways. Now, the coding behind that, I cannot imagine what that looks like, but I can only say that if it works the way that they intend it to, that could be pretty amazing to have people actually impact your world.
It's such a unique concept.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to figure out, is it... Because it's listed on Steam as single-player MMO online core. So you can play this game on your own. So you could be playing this game, Tom, on your own. Then I jump in and go, Tom started playing this game. He started playing 10 hours ago. I'm going to jump in. And I follow in your footsteps.
Yep.
Theoretically. Or we could play together.
Yep.
It's such a unique concept. I really do hope they nail it. Because I don't think I don't know anything that's done something like that before, where it's not like we are having to play together. You can play separately, so you can have your story, I can have my story, but part of your story impacts how my story played out.
Absolutely.
It's mind-boggling stuff.
It's something for me that really flagged up from the state of play that I want to have on my radar. So I just thought I'd throw that one out there quickly.
Yeah. We did get an announcement that Ghost of Yotai will have a gameplay deep dive in July. No further date was announced. And this is the point where I fell asleep. I fell asleep watching it. That's
a shame because the Marvel Tokon fighting game is actually really fucking impressive. A 4v4 tag team fighter akin to something like a Marvel vs. Capcom, or it's made by the guys who made Guilty Gear as well. But it's very interesting that this game has been announced when we have Riot are due to release their 2XKO 2v2 tag team fighter. The people who made League of Legends making their own, League of Legends fighting game. And now PlayStation Studios and Arc System Works have now announced a Marvel fighting game, which looks really, really, really impressive. And it makes sense with Sony having purchased Evo, like the main fighting competition, and having like ownership over that now. To have a game like this announced at the state of play, is very, it's very timely to it, and it makes sense why they closed with this game as well. You're muted still.
It goes nicely hand in hand with the new fight stick they announced, which Project Defiant. It's a wireless fight stick designed by Sony. It's the first time they've done it themselves.
And how stylized is that to the PlayStation as well?
It looks exactly like a PlayStation 5 accessory.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It doesn't look third party. It looks like it belongs in the family, which is perfect.
So I'm not a fighting game fan, but it's just one of them things I think is worth bringing up. Other than that, this week we did have a tech demo of Unreal 4 running The Witcher 4. It looks absolutely gorgeous.
It does. The
question mark I have over it is CD Projekt Red have said it doesn't necessarily represent the game itself. This was them kind of having fun with the tools. Basically. I'm very, very paraphrasing this for time, but watch the videos, make your own judgment, but have that in the knowledge that the game is probably not going to look that good, because this wasn't designed to be how the game would actually end up. This is like the theoretical best they could do. Yeah,
absolutely.
With that is all we have time for this show, but we do like to round out the show with this game in this day in video game history. So starting on June the 7th, Tom, does anything jump out at you?
Oh, okay, right. So the first one that stands out for me is 25 years ago to this day, Vampire the Masquerade Redemption. Vampire the Masquerade series I used to play a lot when I was younger, which is it's a random game that I actually happened to pick up. I quite like the Vampire the Masquerade universe, as sort of like a role-playing person and so on. I really liked the idea that you could pick the family of vampire that your character was created into, or was sort of like converted into. They all had their own abilities, their own way that they would interact with the world, and how NPCs would deal with you. For a game that's 25 years old, I was very impressed with it back in the day. And the level of customization you could go through, creating your own sort of campaigns and like you could essentially take the role of almost like a Dungeons and Dragons DM and create your own campaigns for people to play, but set in the world of Vampire the Masquerade. It was a good time. It was a good time.
Sounds good. Legends of Mana jumps out at me. I've never played it, but it's a franchise that I'm interested in. Just never got round to it. Legend of Zelda Four Swords Adventures came out on the GameCube, but I feel like the Four Swords ones are kind of a weird fit in the Zelda stuff. And for SEO reasons only, Disney's Lilo and Stitch came out in 2002 on the Game Boy Advance.
Nice. Certainly relevant at the moment.
Yeah. There's probably a million other games, but that is all we have time for you this week. If you like the video, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell to keep in all fantastic content. Hopefully we will be covering the Xbox Showcase in some shape or form. I doubt it'll be live. If not, it'll be on this podcast this time next week, undoubtedly, because I can guarantee they're going to drop some absolute bangers, because we didn't have time to fit it into this show. We'll probably need to dig more into, probably in the coming weeks, what happened in Summer Games Fest and PlayStation State of Play, because I'm sure Chris would want to give his takes and stuff. And there's a handful of games that we didn't even mention. I didn't even mention that Astrobot's got 5 new levels.
Yeah, that's true.
And the controller's coming back. But with that, my name's been Richie.
I've been Tom.
GG everyone, goodbye.
Bye.